Okay, so let's kick it off. Welcome back, everyone. Just different pod, more kind of like a personal thing, friendship thing that started on Twitter with Toby, like one of the more vocal kind of like crypto OGs, been around for a while. Toby's got some interesting takes. I thought it would be like a cool opportunity to get him on to come and chat to us about his journey with Bitcoin primarily and just everything in the crypto space. Toby, welcome, dude, calling in from Bali. You can see the suntan. The dude's obviously been in the surf. Welcome,
Sure.
Toby. Thanks for joining us, dude. It's great to have you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Just quickly, just tell us about your journey with crypto and where you started and where you're at right now. Just give us a brief intro.
Oh boy, that was a long time ago. Let's see. I first heard about Bitcoin when it was around $3 to $5. I did not get it, but I'm like, what is this thing? So, I think it was around 2012, like near the latter part of 2012, where I have to learn how to buy this thing. So ended up buying it or I read the white paper, and then I'm like, how does this stuff work? And I started going on exchanges, and I just couldn't believe that I could sign up for an exchange. Because keep in mind, I was trading stocks beforehand, so like gold and silver, that was kind of my thing. And when you're trading stocks, like I had a couple brokerage accounts, and it was a pain in the butt to start up a brokerage account. You had to do so much KYC. Like I remember trying to send one couple of my accounts over to another account, just a complete headache. Whereas now I had this thing where I could literally send all my money from one account to another account for pennies almost instantaneously. I'm like, whoa, this is going to change the entire world. This is great. And then I started telling everybody about it, and everybody thought it was a complete wacko. And yeah, just started as price rose. That's when it got a little more popular. So once it hit $100, then my friends started asking me more about it, and then went to like $1,150, and I'm like going all in. But I was driving for Uber and Lyft at the time, and I was trying to put as much as I could into Bitcoin at that time, and then it crashed. From 1,150 to 200 and something dollars. I'm like, oh, did I really blow it? And keep in mind, there wasn't like Twitter or YouTube where you can go to and you can figure this all out. Nobody's going to hold your hand back then. And then I'm like, you know what? I think it's going to survive. I think it's fine. And then it kind of chilled, and then we went up again. And so that was kind of my journey. Then I met my wife, and yeah, I got her involved with Bitcoin, and I told her, hey, listen, you know what? Because she was trying to figure this, making money online. And I'm like, hey, get onto YouTube, because there's no women in the entire space on YouTube right now. And so I'm like, learn about it, and learn about it on the way of, teaching others and stuff. Because we knew quite a bit about it at that time, around like 2015 or something like that. And so then she started the channel called Crypto Tips. And after that, yeah, we kind of just went from there. She started on Steam It. So that was like this kind of like this paid, you write something, you get paid or whatever. And that's how she gained like a following, because she was writing about stuff that wasn't crypto on there. So they liked that. They wanted to promote that. And then, she brought her following over to YouTube. So, and that was it,
So you guys, I mean, obviously long time YouTube accounts. I actually just went to the account now because I know that quite recently you guys had 200,000 followers, and I see you now up to 215,000. So congrats on that. And I think there's quite
thanks,
a big,
man.
yeah, I mean, that's like really relevant in terms of like kicking this thing off in 2015, and then, having a viewership of 215,000 subscribers it's not easy. And I know that you guys have done it completely organic. I mean, I've watched like over the last 4 or 5 years, just kind of like how it's grown. And it's like super cool that you guys do something quite unique, which is something that a lot of people admire about you guys. And I definitely do, is just this ability to obviously create a business out of, the education that you guys have done, but then you also have done some interesting things with your lives, in that you've centered a lot of your lifestyle around surfing, which is obviously something that's really close to me. It was pretty cool to hear that you actually lived in this area where I'm at the moment for a while. Very sorry that we didn't connect. Yeah. Very sorry we didn't connect at the time. But I know that's been a big part of your life. So just tell us about kind of like that lifestyle choice and how you managed to incorporate, crypto into, like, these are my choices, these are my dreams, and then how you've kind of like, well, not kind of, you've definitely like weaved it into the very fabric of your lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, so I love big waves. So I've just always had a fascination of big waves and wanting to surf them. I've never felt like, okay, this is too big, being out in giant surf. So, I didn't ever when I was a kid, I wanted to be a professional surfer. But then I realized that you're really out there trying to just stay relevant constantly. If you don't get a good shot during or get a good picture during a great wave that you rode, then, you could lose your sponsors or whatever. So I'm like, you know what, that's probably not a good lifestyle for me. I need to find something. I should build my own business, instead of plastering a bunch of stickers on my surfboard, promoting somebody else's company. I wanted to, start my own thing. And that's pretty much what got me into, investing in Bitcoin and investing period, and especially with the bigger wave realm. So like now Nazare, it's kind of like where we spend a lot of time to go and surf. It's like one of my favorite waves to surf. And over there, it's more expensive to surf. So you need jet skis, you need a team, because the waves are too big to physically paddle into. You need a jet ski to get you in. You also need like equipment to save your life, in case you're drowning or you need a rescue or whatever. And then you're involving a team as well. So it does take a lot of capital to go ahead and do that. And a lot of people are sponsors and they're stressed out of their mind. Like there's this documentary called The 100-Foot Wave. I think it's on HBO. And what they don't tell you is how stressed these guys are, because I spend a lot of time with these guys and they're really, really stressed, especially, and they're not super happy. You know what I mean? And I didn't want to be like that. I'm like, you know what? Surfing is for fun. I like surfing for fun. I don't want to get paid. Like I've had sponsorships like, hey, do you want me to pay you or whatever? I'm like, no, don't pay me. If you want to give me a discount on a board, fine, but don't expect a lot of photos and don't expect me to spend a lot of time on Instagram, because you know what? My life is around crypto right now. And they're like, okay, cool. So that's kind of what happened with that. So it's paid off though.
I mean, it is quite an idealistic approach, but I think the good news here and the good story out of this is that it's very much achievable. It's kind of like, well, what are my priorities? What do I actually want from my life? Because I think one of the most difficult things for any person is like determining what it is that you want out of life. You think you want something, and then it's like it involves like flashy cars and expensive watches, but actually that shit is like almost irrelevant, and it's not really the real answer to the question as to like what makes you happy and what is it that you want from your life. And clearly, from my perspective, looking from the outside in, I mean, that's a very clear like, okay, well, I want to surf, I want to do what it takes, and I don't want to have the burden of whatever it might be. And that's pretty cool. So well done on actually managing to do that. A lot of people actually don't know what they want, and they kind of like go down these rabbit holes, and they kind of like reach a much older age and they eventually figure it out. Some never do, but I think it's really cool that you guys have obviously like are very clear in terms of how you went about doing that. But I think what's also go for it.
I was gonna say, like, our lives like haven't like changed dramatically. Like, we're still doing the same things that we like to do, but in more comfort. You know what I mean? And with ease. So like more money has been an improvement to our lives instead of like a burden, you know. So I think it's been a very good thing.
I mean, obvious question: what does having money for you mean?
I mean, but money is a tool for me. You know, I use it to fulfill our dreams, to travel where we want to travel, help out family members, give it to charities. I mean, it's all about having a tool. So I mean, if you're living a life that you love, money's not going to, you know, it's not going to show you what you love. You should, my suggestion is like to people that are about to make it big in crypto or whatever, find something you really like, you know, and then that will save you from spending your money just recklessly. So
yeah, that's good advice. I think it's really easy to go down those rabbit holes, you know, where you want to impress other people. And listen, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of ego, but I think if it becomes your priority, then you'll end up kind of spending your money on the wrong things. And for me, money is a very simple tool, and that's the tool for freedom, around wanting to do what I want to do, how I want to do it. And speaking of freedom, what I also really found interesting about your journey is, and I watched the video when you filmed it originally, when you were, I think you were in the Mentawis at the time, where you actually spoke about renouncing your US citizenship. And I want to get into that because it's such a big thing in terms of like commitment, what you're giving up, and then more importantly, the ideology behind that. So just talk us through that and maybe recollect that video that you recorded.
Yeah, because my wife renounced, and then we planned this together, and so she renounced first, then I renounced. But the reason why we renounce, I mean, there's several reasons. One is that I couldn't support the U.S. military any longer because, I mean, I educated myself on history. I understood like where the money comes from. I understood like central banks. So for instance, you know, 1913 was the creation of the Federal Reserve. The year after was World War I. Is that a coincidence? Probably not, because they were able to expand the money supply. Same as 1971, you know, to expand the money supply again by, you know, essentially killing off the US dollar at that time and then getting rid of gold-backed currency. And that's why you have crazy inflation since 1971. So with that said, you know, giving taxes as well, like, yeah, it's obviously one of the reasons, but it wasn't the main reason. You know, we decided to live overseas. So, you know, if we're giving to the U.S. government from everything we make, living overseas, it just didn't make any sense. Also, setting up a bank account is a real pain in the butt as an American, because you're dealing with things like FACTA, which means you have to report where your money's coming from. If you like have over $10,000 in a bank account, you have to constantly report on to the U.S. government. The bank also has to report as well, and a lot of the banks, the fine of them misreporting what you have in the bank is often greater than the money you ever have in the bank. So it's just it's ridiculous. Also, setting up a business overseas. We have a business overseas, and you know, one of the main questions is, "Are you a U.S. citizen?" We said no, and they were like, "Okay, good," because that would be like 3 months of like paperwork that you'd have to do. And also, one of the main things is crypto. You know, we love this space. Like it's a way for people to be free. and we could tell the U.S. was going down a really bad route. Earlier on, we could tell this, like around like 2016, I could start seeing that the U.S. was just going to start implementing massive amounts of KYC. They would be like the first ones. Then eventually they got rid of Binance and .com and they replaced it with Binance.us. And I'm like, oh, this is not good. And then I think there's like 4 exchanges left in the United States, like crypto exchanges. And I think they're all getting sued right now. I'm not sure, but I think they're all getting sued. So what's happening right now is you're having essentially the U.S. government wanting BlackRock or Coinbase, which is essentially BlackRock, to go ahead and be the exchange of all exchanges. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
It's a slippery slope, and I'm glad I don't have to participate in that anymore. And people say, you don't love, freedom or whatever? I'm like, guys, like, I don't pay any crypto taxes because Portugal is crypto tax free if you hold it for over a year. And that was just from starting last year. But beforehand, it was completely tax free. Yeah. So we can take out as much money as we want, and that's it. So now we have to wait a year. Sweet. Okay, cool. And so, yeah, there's a lot of freedoms. And don't get me started on all this drama that's happening in the U.S. over the past 5 years. I like, if I ever wanted to have a kid, I don't know, just like, this sounds like a pretty bad place.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's something that I've commented on socials and also with friends, and I'm going to comment with you as well, is that I really feel sorry for like the real innovators in the space, like people who and we speak to them on a regular basis, like real big brain, like innovators who are really trying to come up with solutions on all spheres, whether it's L2s, L1s, it doesn't matter. The point is that they're in the space and they're doing great stuff and kind of like are essentially running in front of everyone in terms of innovation. And here you have legislation, politics, and decision makers who are actually doing everything they can to stop this really interesting and really dynamic space. And a lot of it is in the US. There's some seriously organized individuals who are doing amazing stuff, who are essentially having to rethink what it is that they do and how they do it within the context of the US, which is actually super sad. And then we saw like some kind of relief last week with, obviously Trump coming out and saying, and I know that you've got some interesting takes on politics, which I really enjoy, but It's kind of like this game, right? And it's like this game, and the game is, well, I'm going to now tell everyone that I support crypto, which he does. And then all of a sudden the Dems start crossing the floor and they start voting. And then, then he gets kind of like, he gets found guilty. And then all of a sudden the president then vetoes this agreement that was kind of put forward. And it's kind of, for me, that's, it's don't listen to what they say, look at what they do. And crypto in the US does not look like a very promising prospect.
I agree. I totally agree. It's an absolute mess, and it scares me, because I have friends over there, and I worry for them because they are involved with crypto, and it's just like, well, guys, it's only, in my opinion, it's only going to get worse. I can't see it getting better. It doesn't just change because one politician says it's going to get better or they're going to support it or whatever. You already have BlackRock in the space. And I mean, that's another thing. It's like people think in this space that these ETFs are going to onboard millions and millions of people. In reality, it's not. Price increases get people on board because people are attracted to prices. I mean, I've seen it firsthand since 2012 to 2021 or whatever, when we first hit, from back then, from under $100 to 60 something $1,000. And there was tons of people involved with that. This is before ETFs. Now the ETFs are going to get people onboarded onto BlackRock. and that's a derivative of Bitcoin. Like they're not holding real Bitcoin, and they're never going to transact in Bitcoin. It's not even on a blockchain. So like it's just kind of wild that where it's going. It's kind of sad because the opportunities could have been amazing, but now it's a shift from the west to the east, and obviously the east is going to be kicking butt with crypto.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be tax free a lot of the places, and money goes where it's least restricted. So
yeah. So I mean, I know I'm going to kind of like introduce an unpopular take on this, and I have a feeling that you might agree with me, but let's see. It's kind of like so I mean, just so let's go back to the beginning of this thing. Let's go back to 2008, 2009, and obviously the white paper was introduced, and there was an idea around what Satoshi wanted to do, and in many ways, I think we've deviated from that, and I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, because I think everything needs to evolve, and that's how we move forward, right? But at the same time, I almost get the feeling like the whole purpose of Bitcoin was to empower people, and now we have these institutions that are involved in this whole thing, and I think there's two sides to this coin, like any coin has, and that is that, sure, there is kind of like the speculative side where price does go up because you have more people involved. But on the other side of it, surely the essence of what it is that this thing was and why it was created was to empower us as individuals as opposed to institutions and governments. And now everyone's kind of like celebrating the fact that institutions and governments are buying Bitcoin, which is cool. It's a free market. But do you believe that there might be some give as opposed to take, or some take as opposed to give in this scenario? And like, does everyone win, or do they potentially land up winning over the common man or woman in this case?
So you mean like with the U.S.
Do we lose some of that power that was given to us by Satoshi in terms of this sovereign money, this hard money? And we could discuss that for the next few hours, but let's assume that it is hard money, that it is kind of like this solution to inflation, to kind of like the corruption, all of that kind of stuff from a monetary perspective. Do we not lose that power because the very instigators of what Satoshi created against are now involved in it?
I don't think so. I've predicted a split in the road back in, I was talking to my wife, Heidi. She was, we were discussing this exact same thing back in like 2016, 17, where we could kind of see what was happening. We could kind of see what was going to happen. And, we realized there was going to be a split in the road. There's going to be those that want to, self-custody, those that want to, take control of their own money, essentially, and keep the separation of state and money. And there's going to be people that are going to be loving the custodianship of Coinbase, and that's just normal. Like the more this place grows, the more Bitcoin expands its outreach, the more people are going to be, governments are going to hop in. You're going to have, people putting it on their balance sheets. You're going to have institutions like BlackRock being interested, and Vanguard, who's, one of the largest, or is the largest investor in U.S. Bitcoin mining, or one of them. So that's a natural progression. So obviously they're going to hop in on it, but it's not going to take anybody's ability to do peer-to-peer transactions. Bitcoin's still going to be around, so you can either choose to use it for the centralized route or the decentralized route, or both.
Yeah, or
what
for
do you
both.
think?
I mean, yeah. So I mean, I agree with you. It's I mean, it's an obvious take that you present, and what you're saying is that as long as the exposure is there and the flow is there, that's all that's actually needed, because the rest will take care of itself accordingly. I mean, that's essentially what you're saying, right?
Yeah, for sure. I'm not concerned one bit about Bitcoin, like nothing. I don't care. It doesn't matter who gets elected, who. It doesn't matter about any of that stuff or what ETFs get passed or whatever. Bitcoin's going to be around. So it's going to be around for a very long time until something better comes about, which, who knows if that's going to happen or not in our lifetime. But it's always possible. But right now, Bitcoin's the best money that we can have right now.
Yeah, I think one of the most beautiful things about Bitcoin for me as a bit of a nerd is the fact that it is this incredible network. Like, people see it as this money thing, but what they don't realize is that the reason why it's such an awesome money is because it's actually built on this network that is extensively and arguably the most insane network that human beings have ever built. It's like, I mean, it is the internet in many ways. It is, and it's the equivalent side of the internet. And that's what I love about it. The fact that you and I can run a node, the fact that we can mine. That's how I started in it. I started through gaming and through transacting in games back in 2013, 2014, and then I mined from 2016 onwards. And
very cool.
I was never a part of the space that we see now. Like, for me, it was kind of like a foreign thing. For me, it was just like, where's the opportunity? What does it look like? The same way you did, but it wasn't like this community-driven thing that it is right now.
Sure.
And so I kind of like did it the wrong way around in many ways, like, anyways. And what I love about it is that it's a network that you can't fuck with. And I think that's my number one prize for Bitcoin. And I don't ever want to see that compromised. And that's the only thing I'm scared about, but I don't think there's anything to be scared of. Like you said, it's kind of like it's going to be around for a long time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So let's kind of jump over the fence now and look at ETH and, Ethereum and the value that it potentially brings. What are your thoughts around ETH? I know that you are very open-minded about the space. You're not a hardliner or a Maxi from that perspective, but you are a Maxi from an opportunity perspective, and you see the opportunities. Talk about ETH, your thoughts on that. Even shitcoins, like, where do you see kind of like that all fitting into the equation?
I mean, ETH is, I mean, it used to be amazing. I'll just say that. It used to be more, so I should say more amazing than it is right now, because it used to be proof of work. And now you've introduced a less robust system, which is proof of stake. And, whatever, it's definitely more centralized. I have to see where it goes from here. I'm like, for instance, I'm not going to be selling much Bitcoin during this bull market, but I will be selling much more ETH on this bull market, as well as, speculative coins like AI coins or whatever. I do think AI coins are going to be massive. That's another one, especially the ones built on ETH, because, ETH is the second biggest network out there. And since like EIP 1559 came about, I mean, these transactions are essentially burning away more and more ETH. And so with these institutions and stuff, they're going to probably be making a lot of transactions, which is going to burn ETH. And then you also have the staking aspect of it, which will take more supply off. And so that would be pretty bullish, in my opinion, at least middle term to maybe slightly more than that. But long term, I don't know if I don't know if it's going to survive like long term, because the code is too complex. One of the reasons why Bitcoin is so robust and so anti-fragile is because its code is simple. It's very simple. And, the more simple something is, the less buggy it's going to be. Whereas Ethereum is very complex. And, Like, the more complex it is, the more problems they're probably going to have in the future. And that's not just my opinion. That's like the Ethereum devs that have said that in the past. So as you probably heard. So that's my thoughts on ETH. I think it's going to do really well this bull market, though.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take advantage of that. I've been in ETH for a very long time, since probably like near the beginning. I missed the IPO, which sucked, or the ICO. But yeah, so other than that, I think it's going to do really well. And alts should do. We should have a massive alt season as well, because people love speculation. I mean, just look at the memes and stuff, and the meme coins or whatever. And I actually really like how the space is going, because it kind of just gives like the middle finger to the Fed Reserve and like what money used to be all about. Now it's like people are like $1 billion coin from this dog whiff hat. Like, it's so funny. I love it. I think it's really cool. Like, just people come up with these ideas, let it ride and see what happens, and they're kicking butt. And I don't look down upon people that are building things like that, because number one, I don't worry about Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to be fine. People worry about like, hey, this is going to take over the market cap of Bitcoin. Less and less people are going to be interested in Bitcoin. No, not really. Like, people are going to be interested in Bitcoin because it is robust. I mean, and it has the highest hash rate of anything on Earth, pretty much. So yeah, it's fine. And I think the people that are really scared and actually do not have the confidence in Bitcoin are the ones that are Bitcoin maxis, and they're scared of other coins taking the spotlight away from Bitcoin. So yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, I think you and I share the same perspective on, there isn't one road to whatever that nirvana of money looks like. It's kind of like there's always going to be the speculation, there's always going to be the gambling. And you're right, Bitcoin doesn't need anyone to prop it up. I think we've established that in this conversation, and we both agree. It's kind of like it's got its shit in order. It's been through the motions. It's had everything thrown at it, from forks to governments banning it to everything. It's like, I don't think there's anything, to LARPs pretending that they created it, and that was a great, Craig Wright being found for the LARP that he is, was just probably one of the most beautiful things for me anyways. As a Bitcoin purist, not a maxi, but as a purist, it was really cool to see that play out. But something that's been a huge interest for me lately is this whole dynamic between kind of like EVM and Bitcoin, and this idea of layer twos, where Bitcoin becomes a layer two, or side chains that essentially bring in the whole idea of enhancing the collateral value that Bitcoin holds into the EVM / Ethereum space. I really like it. I think that's a positive move in terms of enhancing Bitcoin's capability on the blockchain. Thoughts on that, and kind of like, the ability to obviously lend and borrow Bitcoin and do what Ethereum has done this long, and allowing Bitcoin to do the same thing. What are your thoughts around that?
I'm fine with it. I mean, Satoshi built Bitcoin. He put little hooks into the code, which allowed for things like this, for like BRC20s and building upon Bitcoin. So with Solana, it was kind of funny because you had all these like racist meme coins or whatever, and I think that was a really good way to test how centralized Solana was. You know what I mean? So, for instance, I could imagine the devs speaking to each other going, oh my goodness, did they just call that coin that? You know what I mean? So I think that was just a really funny way to go ahead and test a network to see if they're going to shut it down. And they kind of passed, which was pretty nice. So that was a good test. I really like the creativity of people creating different coins to test a network, and that was, in my opinion, that it was a test, and they made a lot of money off that test. Good for them. I thought it was a brilliant way to do things. But yeah, we'll see what goes on in the future with Ethereum now that there's a spot ETF with BlackRock and friends. So it's going to be interesting to see what goes on, see how much they're going to acquire, because after 33% of the network, if you control like 33% of the network, you have a larger say in where Ethereum goes, and that's going to be really interesting to see what happens. I think one of the things that scared me with the ETFs is I forgot who, I think it was Van Eck. And they said, yeah, we're going to give, I think it was 5% of the profits that they make off the ETFs to Bitcoin core development over the next 10 years. So every year they get 5%. And, I was looking, the Bitcoin core team does not get a lot of money. Like their largest funder is like people like you and I, or just random people. It's not like a huge company that gives them money. So that kind of like, it made me think, okay, how hardcore are these guys? You know what I mean? How hardcore is the Bitcoin core development team? Are they going to be able to be swayed in a way that would, change Bitcoin at all? So that was one concern that I still have. I don't know how hardcore these guys are. And I mean, I say hardcore, just, people that have a solid philosophy of why Bitcoin was created. And, it was essentially, look at the Genesis block. It was, pretty much 2007, 2008, the chancellor gets, bailed out.
Yeah.
And that was the whole point, like, hey, that was like, all right, banks, you blew it. Now we have something better. Sucks for you. That's the philosophy of Bitcoin. Whereas now we're inviting these same crooks on, and that's going to be interesting to see what happens with them giving money to the Bitcoin core development team. I think they're going to pass. I'm not too concerned, but it is a concern back in my mind. How about you?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I haven't really thought about it from kind of like where, the whole idea of like, where's your bread buttered, So if these guys are paying, now we're almost obligated to do X, Y, and Z. But I think you're right. I think in many ways, you could almost argue that it's like, well, it's not really in our interest to direct or orchestrate things in a different direction, because the direction that it's in is fine. It's kind of like it's taking care of itself. And I also think there's too many eyes on it as well. So it's not just about, 3 or 4 core developers. I think that the core development team is quite extensive. And in a way, you could argue that that's also quite a decentralized setup as well. Obviously, if things go to vote, and you never know, but I don't really think it's a major concern, or it shouldn't be. And I tend to be bullish around things. So being an eternal optimist, I tend to kind of like agree with you that I don't think it's really a risk.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
just something that you've been also like, something that I've really enjoyed about kind of like your banter on Twitter, I think over the last 6 months, is that you've been very bullish in terms of where the market's at. And I want to just chat to you about kind of like your thoughts around where the market is at. I mean, you've given us some clues, but like, yeah, what do you think? What do you think the rest of the year looks like? Do you think we're going to have a shorter cycle because we had, the all-time high before the halving? I mean, we've never seen that before in the past. Does it mean we have an accelerated cycle, or is it more of the same? And yeah, what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's a $1 billion question right there. Yeah, like you said, we've hit all-time highs before the halving. We've also never dipped below the prior all-time high.
Yeah.
And we've also never had this much of a catalyst as well, with coins being taken off the market, and also, with retail not super excited. Because I remember the last couple bull markets we were in, like I was getting calls daily. I mean, we're at 69,000 right now, just over 69. I'm getting no calls from friends and family. So, and my initial thought is still that, yeah, we might have a left translated cycle, but I mean, as far as if we can chill here for a very long time, that would be great, because I can see a lot of like these pumpy accounts on Twitter. They're like, okay, it's going to go to 100,000 anytime now. I'm like, well, it doesn't matter if it does. I mean, like we're at what, 85 days now in this range?
95 days.
95 days, which is fine.
Yes.
And
it's actually perfect.
Yeah, I think it's great. And then, looking at leverage in the system, I think from $53,000 to over $70,000, we had like decreasing open interest, which is essentially leverage in the system. And that's what you want to see. That's a healthy rise. And I think that's one of the reasons why we haven't revisited too much down in those levels. I think we've had a healthy rise. Now we just got to get rid of these open interest gamblers so that we can go to 100,000. And hey, if it takes another couple months, so be it. I mean, I think Bob Lucas said that he expects Bitcoin to pretty much range in this area till August. And hey, that would make so many people miserable.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's nothing more bullish in crypto than people being absolutely miserable. That's what you want to see. It's always darkest before the dawn, or I think that's kind of what you want to see. And but you want to be in the market. You don't want to be trying to time the market, because Bitcoin makes most of its moves within like 10 days of the bull market. If you're out of the market during those 10 days, you just blew it. You know what I mean? So I think it was like 2017, 2018, there was like 12 days of that. If you weren't in the market during those 12 days, you didn't make anything. So that's what I encourage people to do. Just focus on, we are in a bull market. We have not gone out of a bull market. We are literally ranging right now. Consider dollar cost averaging if you don't have a full, if you're not happy with your Bitcoin bag. But I would always consider, telling people, buy your Bitcoin bag and then deal with all the alts and stuff. Because if Bitcoin does, poop the bed, alts are going to get obliterated. So, but they'll also move faster if you're in the right alts as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's actually a really good point in terms of like, we know that hate and misery like drive this market probably harder than any other market, but maybe it's just because I'm not really dialed into traditional finance. I can't imagine it not being the same. Human emotion is what it is and doesn't differ from market to market. And you're right, it's like the more miserable people are, especially when they're calling tops. Like for me, like the funny thing this cycle, like without a doubt, has been just the consistency of people calling top. Like 48K was the top. It was a sell the news, and it almost proved them right, and it kind of sold off a bit, and then it just gave everyone the finger, and then went straight back up. It was just such a beautiful thing, and I think this range, you're right. This range is actually exactly what we need, and I see alts are really starting to catch a bit. Comments. I mean, I'd love to get your thoughts on memes and how do you see, like, why do you see that playing out the way that it has, and how it's like really bucked the trend? Is it like this joke that I've made that essentially meme coins are just the honest version of governance tokens? Like, this is just what governance tokens always were, and they are a version of governance tokens? Or do you think it really is like people are just being honest about the space being not as honest as it should be, and let's just play with memes. I mean, what do you think is going on here?
I mean, I think, like, for instance, back in, I think it was 2017, 2018, you had different, different narratives that come and go. And same thing as last bull market, they come and go. For instance, the NFT space came and then it went. So that now it's memes. And, people just kind of hop in on it. It's like Bored Apes, like Bored Apes were trading at a couple ETH, and then they went to 180 ETH per Bored Ape, and then Mutant Apes came after that. And, it's just, people just want to throw away or throw money at things. And I think I don't mind it. I think it's funny to see people, getting excited about like Brett on Coinbase or like, anything else. I'm personally not invested in I think I have like 2 meme coins that I've hardly put anything in there. Yeah, which you don't actually need to put a lot in there, as you can tell. But it just shows you how much fiat is flowing around the world, and that, people just want to kind of explore different areas of crypto. Because they think, okay, they see Bitcoin maybe at $69,000, and they see, like Brett coin at half a cent, so they want to buy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And whatever, it's fine. It's people are going to have fun with it. I think people are going to get slaughtered. Most people are going to get, destroyed in these things. But in the meantime, have fun, and yeah, it's a speculative market. And if it's not Bitcoin or Ethereum, I think, yeah, Bitcoin or Ethereum, it's pretty speculative. Yeah. I don't know. What are your thoughts on it? I'm curious.
So, I mean, it's a great question because it's something that we picked up on, like literally in the middle of the bear market, where we had, it was almost like an Arbitrum meme kind of like period. It was 2023, beginning of 2023, December through till April. And it wasn't just memes that were popping, but there would, like, Arbitrum had like a really cool season, and as fast as people made money, they gave it back. It was almost like this window and a glimpse of what bull markets are, except it was 4 months as opposed to, say, 18 months or whatever the case might be. And we saw memes come in quite strongly, and obviously that was when Pepe was released. I mean, we even wrote about it in our newsletter when it was at like a 2 million market cap. We mentioned it on stream, and then we mentioned it in the newsletter. Maybe this is a good bet. I mean, it is the ultimate meme anyways in terms of the frog. I mean, I'm a big Pepe fan. Never bought back then. You know what it's like when you educate and you commentate on the market. You always make the right calls, but you hardly ever like participate.
Sure.
And we saw this. We saw like this whole like rise, and then people started formulating opinions, and there's almost like a formula that we take with everything in the space. Well, memes kind of like mark the end of a cycle or the end of something. And we were like, no, maybe there's something more here. Maybe there's actually an opportunity here that extends beyond just like this catalyst for the end. And then we saw another spike in memes towards the middle of that year. I forget what the catalysts were, but memes were the ones that caught the bid ahead of everybody else and everything else. And then we started speculating and saying that, hold on a second, memes are actually starting to show themselves as being a force to be reckoned with beyond just kind of like, I've got extra money and I want to throw it at something that is speculative. Even though it is very much that, it's not the end of. It's actually what we want to do over the long term. And then obviously we've seen what we've seen. So I think in many ways it is an honest account of the fact that we recognize governance tokens for being, for the most part, pretty useless, and that they don't really bring much value to the space beyond, the insiders and those people who stand to benefit the most because they have the most of them. And we're saying, well, how do we find something that we can speculate on, but that could be as fair as possible. And most of them aren't, because we know that it's mostly insiders and the rest of it. But I think the dog with the hat was a very good example of something that was very much organic. The same with Bonk, very much organic. And then Pepe landed up becoming something very organic after the shenanigans with founders eventually selling off their coins and dumping the chart. Pepe right now is probably the fairest with and I believe Bonk in the market. And surprisingly, they are the one. Well, not surprisingly, they are the ones that are doing the best. So what are the lessons? The lessons here are that people like to speculate, but as soon as you offer an environment that truly is fair, then you really do get the opportunities that are being made in the current form. And it's a combination of everything, Toby. To answer your question, I think it's a combination of everything. But one thing is very clear. People want to speculate. They want to have fun. And the guys who come up with the best ideas and the most fun to be had are the ones that are going to do really well in this space.
Yeah. That's
so
great.
Yeah, memes aren't catalysts for ends or beginnings. They're here to stay. I don't think they're going to be flash in the pans. And I'll tell you why I don't think it's going to be a flash in the pan like NFTs were in the context of NFTs. I think maybe to a certain extent, but I think it does afford the opportunity for that speculative environment that puts everyone on an even kill. Even if they think they're on an even kill, they'll go for it. That's why VCs haven't featured this market. We haven't seen VCs feature at all. And they've tried, and then they try and steal an idea, and then everyone sees it for what it is, and they go to zero, like literally overnight. So
yeah, that's great. I like that.
Yeah. So I mean, those are my thoughts around it. It's kind of like, I think what's happening is that the space is growing, and I think there will be a moment where, like, and I want to ask you this question, and that's kind of like your thoughts around DeFi, particularly, and the role that DeFi has to play. Like, what are your thoughts around, like, like real DeFi projects and people out there that are innovating and wanting to do things better? I mean, where do you see that going, short, medium, and long term?
I think DeFi is one of the most important things in this space because, I mean, first off, governments are going to crack down harder and harder, especially in the West. And, people are going to have a hard time transacting in a free way, in my opinion. So I think, DeFi is definitely a need. And, I think that's one of the reasons why I think it was the SEC or DOJ going after or sending a Wells notice. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. I think that was one of the reasons why, they sent a Wells notice over to Uniswap. I think they understand that their concerns are real, that you're not going to be able to stop DeFi, especially true DeFi projects. They could find, the Uniswap's headquarters or whatever in New York, but, they can't shut it down. They would have a very hard time shutting it down. And I think the more and more that the West does crack down on DeFi, the better off we are going to be because things are going to get more robust. I keep saying that word robust. That's what the space needs. They need to be truly decentralized. In fact, even having like a CEO is like a really bad idea if you're making a truly decentralized project. I mean, can you imagine if, Satoshi had made himself known?
Yeah.
Like how fast would they go after Satoshi? So with that said, it just needs to be really strong and make sure that there's no pinch points for governments to go after. And governments are, in my opinion, our biggest enemy. You're not going to have that many people, shutting down. The free market's not going to shut down a project unless it sucks. So, but governments will shut down something that's good and actually, a non-partial market, which is Uniswap essentially, or Aave, and yeah, so I see that as being a huge part. And anybody that's investing in solid projects, they're probably going to make a killing as well. And if you're like a liquidity provider or LP, yeah, that's great. That's a great way to make money, especially in a bull market.
And then just to close off, because we've reached the top of the hour, I'm really curious. Sure. And I did originally ask, but we got kind of like sidetracked. Like, how long do you see this bull market playing out? Are you looking at kind of like traditional cycle from like going into the middle to the end of next year, or do you see an accelerated cycle?
For me, I'm looking at Q4 of this year. That's probably freaking out a lot of people.
Wow.
But
okay.
I think we're gonna blast off. And we are going to be up only within, we're going to start it within a month, or who knows when we're going to start. But I think we're going to be well in the 100,000s by the end of the year. Way like I think we're going to have a major correction because, these waves go in 5. So, after the 5th wave, if we hit, like, say the next impulsive move up, so we go
this
to
will
like
be the 5th one, right? This one will be the 5th one.
Well, no, like, for instance, an impulsive move usually has 5 different legs to it. So for instance, we start here, impulsive move up, then we go to 80,000, 90,000, 100,000. I think after $100,000, we might have a nice pullback, but that might be where alts, or if Bitcoin can chill a little bit, that's maybe when we hit alt season. Just a guess, obviously I don't know the future, what's going to happen, but if we can chill here for many months, I think that's really, really bullish. Like, man, that could really spark a longer cycle. In my opinion, that would go well into next year. I really hope we do not skyrocket from here. I hope we chill, make people miserable, and then eventually skyrocket. But whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But I should ask, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. To be honest, I think in many ways I'm almost sitting on the fence like you. Like, I'm almost inclined to think that I'm going to just play it the way that I see it. I think we obviously always do, but more so now than ever before, because there's a lot to indicate that we have got an accelerated cycle. But at the same time, there's also a lot to indicate that even if it is accelerated, there is a lot of momentum that almost like, I think macro is important, and I'm terrible with macro, but it seems like macros, they're going to cut rates. People are speaking about that being a possibility. If that happens, and the fact that we're coming into, the end of the year being an election year and the rest of it, if they print any kind of money at this point in time, then I don't think we do see an accelerated bull market. I think we see, if anything, a market that pretty much is a reflection of the previous cycles. So I'm hoping that it does go into the middle of next year. That's what I hope. But, whatever happens, happens. It's kind of like what Altcoin Psycho was saying from a buying and selling perspective. The way that he approaches it is that he sells in 3 parts. He always lands up selling his first batch too early. He always sells the second batch at exactly the right time. And then the third batch he sells a little bit late. So that's the way I'm playing this bull run, is that I want to be doing those 33% sales when I think might be tops or whatever the case is, and then let's see where it takes us. But I'm hoping for a longer cycle.
Me too.
Ethereum, Me too. The thing is, I think just to kind of close it off, Ethereum ETF was approved 10 days ago, right?
Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
People are calling tops, but Ethereum hasn't reached all-time. Like, Ethereum hasn't reached all-time high yet. I don't care what you think about Ethereum and what Solana's done and Ansem going on about Solana. You know, we called Solana $10, just by the way.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
awesome. Good job.
Yeah.
Nice
Absolutely.
work.
And it's kind of like Solana's not like it's not something that we don't enjoy and like, but Ethereum hasn't had its moment. And when it does, anything less than $10,000 is FUD. So that needs to still play out. So
yeah. No, I agree. I think Ethereum's just going to absolutely blow up.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun. This bull market's going to be incredible. And it's going to catch a lot of people off guard.
I think it already has, man. I mean, just based on, it's been a very interesting one. And I don't think it's been an easy one either. Like you said, you know, there's a lot of gambling going on the open interest side of it. A lot of guys running longs like beyond their risk profiles. And it's a good thing. And it's also a bad thing. And it's probably more a bad thing than it is a good thing. But it's a good thing because it does create that kind of like, you know, that misery that we were speaking about earlier on. And it's like, it's been a tough market. I think out of all the cycles that I've had, this is my third one. It's definitely been the toughest. The last two were a lot easier. You kind of bought something and it just went pretty much up. This has been freaking all over the place, man. Like,
wait a second, man. You were calling Solana at $10. How is this hard for you, bro?
No. That's one aspect of it. Then there's kind of like the AI stuff. All right. So let's talk about the AI market. The AI coins have been really tough. I mean, Nvidia's been up only, but then you look at like decent AI project like Renders. I don't care what anybody says. If you're trying to trade Render, it's a hard one unless you bought it on the lows. Right now, like, it's shaken people out left, right, and center. It hasn't been a straightforward journey for people that hold Render, for example.
Yeah.
So you're right. There are. I mean, you bought Bitcoin at $16,000. It's been an absolute breeze, you know. But I didn't. I honestly thought it was going to go lower. I did at the time. I was like, this thing's going at 12, 10K, and I was caught completely off guard.
Sure.
Between that and 35K, I was just like, what the freaking hell is going on here?
But you made up for it for your $10 call.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, yeah, it was awesome. And then ETH as well. I mean, ETH was also a good call at 1,200. We called that. That was a good call. But then I've been offside on a lot of stuff as well. Like a lot of memes. Jeez, I've been handed my ass on a silver platter with memes.
Sure. Well, you know what? Nobody ever, if you ever said you'd get everything right, you're a liar. You know what I mean? Totally. So, I mean, like, come on, everybody has their ups and downs on every single cycle, no matter how smart you are. But I mean, the fact that you were calling, you know, ETH at 1,200 and Solana at $10, that's incredible. You did your viewers an incredible service. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, we've had some good calls. I mean, we called. I can't believe I've just forgotten the name. Camelot. We called the Camelot token. What's it called again? We called that it was at a 500K market cap at the time. It was in our November newsletter of 2022. Because they just launched and we were like, this thing's gonna send. And it did. Like 2 months later, dudes were like just printing off that thing.
And you called it. You guys called. I first heard about Pandora from you.
Yeah, Pandora was amazing. Cool.
That was really great.
Telegram, good friends. And I still think like Pandora is still a really relevant and such a great like protocol base for Ethereum, like in terms of combining NFTs with tokenization. I'm surprised it hasn't taken off. I mean, for us, it was like, from a Blockmate's perspective, it was like, this is a no-brainer. Like you can launch an NFT collection and have a token that's liquid linked to the NFT collection. And it just never hasn't really taken off. It's really strange.
Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, people might go back to those things. Like I think it's ERC 404, right?
404, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty smart idea. I don't see it going away.
Yeah.
Just maybe it's too early for its time, or I mean, maybe not, because I mean, what you were buying it at ridiculous prices. Went to $30,000, 40,000. I forgot.
Yeah, we ended up buying that at less than 1,000, and it went kind of. I think my average sell was around 24.5.
That's awesome. Good job.
So that was my best trade this cycle so far, by far.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that was just insane. Actually, that was such a lucky one.
That's good.
And I think, you know what the thing is about the space that I find really interesting, and why I enjoy the stuff that you guys do is it's kind of like, I mean, there's obviously the revenue side of this whole thing. You know, there's a business and you want to make money, but for us, it's like we really like catching stuff really early. You know, like getting stuff early and making a call on something early, not because you want to. I mean, it's nice to kind of like boast about it afterwards and laugh a little bit here and there, but it's like, it's more about like, are you really in the zone? Like, are you really like connected to what's going on in the space and the people that are in the space? And is your relationship with the space an honest one so that you can get that information and then share it with the community that is receptive to it? And then when you get it right, it's so freaking kick ass. You know, even if you're not the one who's actively invested in it, you see it, you make the call, you might not have liquidity at the time. And then when someone messages you and says, listen, I just made a 7x or a 10x on this, it's the coolest thing. You know, I love that. I love that about it.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Definitely. I agree.
And I think that's the only place to be. And I think we're not always going to get it right. And when we do, then we've got to like own it. And when we get it wrong, we got to own it as well, which a lot of dudes don't do. They kind of like just try and laugh and scam, and which isn't cool.
Yeah, I know, man. I get it. So nice.
Cool. So, dude, thanks for joining.
Cool.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. I know, kind of like a little bit left field, like just asked you to come on. Like, why the fuck do you want me to come on? Well, now you know.
That's fine.
You got some,
sure.
Yeah, got some cool stories to share, and well done.
Sorry
on
about
what you guys
the studio here.
No, it's fine. We know you're in Bali surfing. It's fine, brother.
Good.
Cool, dude. Appreciate your time, and thanks for joining us. And to anyone who's been listening in, please like and subscribe. We do appreciate it. Toby, thanks, dude. You rock, and keep the positive, bullish vibes going. I love it.
No worries.
Anyone who isn't following Toby, go follow him. He's a proper bull. He's one of the real ones. He's not pretending. He means it. Thanks, Toby.
Definitely. Thanks, buddy.
All right. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please give us a like, subscribe, and turn the notification bell on for next time. See ya.